Hello, this is Will. I'm a real werewolf. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you would, or video or whatever. I've been asked to stop swearing by Louis, so as a favour, I'm going to stop swearing in this bit. Okay, I'm a real werewolf. This is interview 11. Jesus, it's going on forever. Please go back and listen to the rest of my interviews if you want to know what it's like to be a werewolf and the truth about it all. Yeah. So, a question I often get asked is like, are you guilty for being a werewolf? Do you feel bad? And I'll have to tell you the truth. Fuck all that feeling guilty and sparkly romantic bullshit of the Twilight fucking sagas. I am a lost soul who has to kill because he has been cursed to do so. Nah, fuck that. I love killing and murdering. I love the terror and the fear that I create. I love the hunt and the capture. The torture is, dare I say it, my particular fave. I'm not one of those poor tortured souls who hate themselves and all that bollocks. I'm fully into being the beast and enjoying it. I get really annoyed with all these films and books that have come out portraying us as like these cuddly, misunderstood creatures that really do not want to cause harm. Those poor animals that want to lock themselves away on turning and keep the innocent human world safe. No, fuck that. You are a plague and I am the one of the answers. A real superhero in the fight for depopulation and saving the earth. Thanos has it right, in fact, that there is just too many of you and that needs to change. Also, you are all selfish little bundles of emotional hatred that really do not need to exist, in my humble opinion. Sorry if I've caused any offence. Now, some of you get it, but some of you are like, oh, how can you do all that? It's like a stupid statement from humanity's lips. Bollocks to you. That's what humanity does when it gets power. It kills and enslaves other humans. How did those 1%ers get to the top? Through being violent and threatening. Their ancestors were the conquerors and the killers. Then I hear the cry, oh, violence and strength are all wrong. It's bullying and we should not do it. Well, that's bollocks too. Just go try and do a simple thing like using your freedom to do something like not follow the rules of the system. If you refuse to follow the laws and the rules of the society that you are in, what happens? Well, society gets angry and finally calling the authorities or take the measures themselves. You are violent creatures at heart. If you are a cheesemonger and someone comes in and pisses on your cheese, then you're probably going to want to hurt them. If the police arrive to your piss party, then they will demand that you follow their instructions. If you do not follow their instructions, they will then use a required amount of force to make you comply with their wishes. I know, I've seen it on the TV. Yes, you see, they will use a required level of force to get you to comply with their wishes. Yes, they use violence against you. Oh, and please do not sugarcoat it and say that they are just the force that is necessary to get you to comply. They use force, they use violence and force. Enough said. And if you struggle and do not want to do what they ask, then they use more force and then steal your freedom, stuffing you in a fucking cage. Upscale that to countries. The original American operation to free... I would laugh at this point. To free the people of Iraq from the horrors bestowed on them by the brutal dictator Saddam Hussein was called Operation Iraqi Liberation. They even got to the point of making up the embroidered badges of the acronym. Did you spot the acronym? Yes, the original operation was OIL, oil. God bless us all and free that oil. Yeehaw! The Americans and their allies went in under false pretenses and bombed and killed the shit out of loads of people for oil. It was not about the freedom and the democracy that this would bring to the Iraqi population, but the oil that the regime was making too expensive. What does this show us? That we use violence. Countries kill and murder if they want to get something they want or if they are threatened in any way. Violence is only wrong for you lower forms of life. The general populace, those that do not need to understand its use. In your case, it is all wrong and you should not do it. But if you are America and you need the price of oil to be reduced on the world stage, then bomb away. Once killing innocents, then use the excuse that you are protecting your people and further justification that you are saving the population of that country. Fairness and human rights are all there to serve your betters. They con you into believing that the world is a safe and just place. Again, bollocks. It's not. Nothing's fair. It's not fair that you're not a werewolf, is it? I release you from that shit. You are not living. You exist under the cruel masters that control you financially. You are taking the crumbs off their tables. You are worse than slaves, working for wages that are not enough to support you and yours properly. That's worse than slavery. If you were a slave, at least your masters would hold you to some inherent value. Just think of those good people who first thought that actually we could get rid of slavery and give the people freedom. Someone sat down and thought, right, these slaves cost us huge amounts of money. We have to feed them and keep them somewhere if they get sick. They can't work, so that costs us, and if they get sick and they die, then we lose their value. A slave is worth something economically. You are not. So someone sat there and cleverly thought, let's give them freedom. Here's how it went in my eyes. Picture the scene. A group of evil slave owners, top hats and mustachios somewhere in the world, sat around a table eating veal and that goose pate, the thing that is made so cruelly from turning geese inside out. You can imagine them already, a right bunch of twats. One of them puts his Persian white cat down on the table, turns to another, and with a thick but very camp German accent says, Hans, oh Hans, it is awful that it is happening to me at my salt mine. The slaves are doing the work here, and I am having to feed and shelter them and their families, and they can't work if they are pregnant, sick, or under the age of 4. Oh, I am so sad. What do I do, Hans? Hans takes his large cigar from his lips, which comes away with a fake nose glasses and a set of eyebrows, and he looks Gruber in the eyes. Well, Gruber, I have been playing with this notion of freedom. What we do is we say to all the slaves, you are free. You can go and do what you want when you want. Gruber looks aghast at this statement, thinking that his fine friend has lost the plot and no longer wants to exploit people, but now wants to show them how much he cares and how a great man he truly is. But Hans, I don't understand. How will we get all those cheapy t-shirts made in your sweatshops? How will you get people to make them for 16 hours a day if you give them freedom? Well, Gruber, I have been thinking carefully about this. What I have decided to do is I will pay them for the hours that they give me. So I will take their most precious commodity, which in reality is their time. It is infinite, and I will pay them money to spend that time doing a job. And this is the good bit. I will not actually pay them enough to make their lives generally any better than it is now. He smiled and flicked the ash off the end of his plastic melting fake cigar. Gruber sits there thinking for a while and resumes stroking his pussy. Wow, did that really just turn into some kind of farce? And Gruber looks confused. So, you are going to give them choice to work for you? Why would they? Asks Gruber. Well, here's the rub, Hans. They have to have not got enough money to go to other places, and they need the job because now they are paying for their own home, food, and healthcare. I have given them the freedom to choose if they want to come and do the job that they were just doing as slaves, and as slaves it used to cost me a fortune to look after, manage and control them. All this slavery stuff costs money with having to organize their lives for them and all that stuff. Never mind the initial cost and layout to buy the fuckers. Do you know how much it costs to capture and bring in slaves? So basically, they think they are free because they get to choose which slave master they work for, Gruber. And on top of that, they have to organize their own lives and look after themselves and their families, Gruber. Yes, although we could put in a political system which we can manipulate, this will let now the free people think that they are getting some control over the decisions made for them. It will give them what feels like a bit of control over that political system, even though in reality we will control and manipulate that too. You see how that works? Says Hans. They will then have someone to blame for the things that happen. It will be us doing the controlling and evil shit, but the politicians will get the blame. Politicians will be voted in and out of office regularly, so it looks like the system is changing, but in reality, we will never and always have the perfect control. Never changing, manipulating the system, and blaming the politicians ourselves. Also, we have not paid for the people as pieces of property, so if they do die, it costs us nothing. We don't even have to pay to bury them. And on top of that, when they die, you will get a queue of more people waiting for their job because we make them believe that there is not enough work. Yes, I like that term, work, for them, so they will compete for that shit. Jobs that pay just enough to survive, while we as the company owners will get the largest part of the profits that they have created and say that it's okay to do that because we, get this, we are giving them the jobs. They will fucking thank us. Mental, huh? My favourite part is that we will then tax them using the political system that we have set up, so they have to give us money in order to provide them with things like pensions and roads and schools and all that stuff that they will expect, while we use the loopholes in the system because we are rich, ruthless and reticent to relinquish any cash to not pay any tax. We get to keep all our money and use the systems that they are paying for to produce our workers. They will pay for the roads our freight will run on. They will pay for the education that our workers will require. They will pay for a shitty healthcare system that is just enough to keep them in work if they become ill. We will pocket all our income. They will pay for the things we need for our businesses to work. Amazing, huh? So, you've got to realise that I don't feel guilty because you are the grist for the mill, and if you were to die tomorrow, they would quickly find another to fill that empty spot. The more of you that I separate from this earthly coil, the better. My only issue is keeping myself discreet in my actions. I don't want to get caught. That's why I tend to go on holidays to the more chaotic parts of the world. I like to go where a group of people or a little village going missing is not really an issue. The only problem with this is it tends to be people who don't really deserve it as much as those of you with first world issues in your privileged homes. But in reality, a cruel and unusual death is a cruel and unusual death wherever it is in the world. You might be wondering why you don't hear more of these missing people and murders in the papers or the media. Well, it tends to be hushed up a little if possible, or blamed on something else, or it may be just reported that these people have gone missing, not that they were disappeared. I am incredibly hard to find by modern policing methods. I don't have any MO, as they say. I don't have a motive, or often any link to the people I kill. That's a lesson I learnt quite early on in my killing. That's a whole story in itself. Even in these modern times, the handy thing about being a werewolf is that any DNA that I leave at the site does not make any sense to a forensic team. It must be that my WAG DNA is different or something, or maybe they just not believe it. Also, I'm pretty good at this shit by now. I feel no guilt. I don't care. I love what I do.